Before starting today's video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video to encourage us to provide the best. I work part-time as a babysitter and have tried out different websites before settling with Sitter City. This platform allowed me to work on random hours without having to worry about committing to a fixed schedule every week. One Saturday morning, I received a job request from a family to babysit their 2 young boys from 8 p.m. to 1 a.m. I had worked my regular job earlier that day, but the timing still worked for me. I always prefer these late-night gigs because the kids usually go to bed early, leaving me ample time to relax until the parents get home. I accepted the job and promptly drove over to the family's house, arriving 10 minutes early. The parents introduced me to their 2 shy boys, aged 5 and 6, and asked me to ensure that they were in bed by 9:30 p.m. The boys spent most of the time watching cartoons, which I found to be a common trait among many kids I had babysat before. At 9:30 p.m., I turned off the TV and led the boys to bed without any issues. With 3.5 hours to kill before the parents returned, I brought my headphones and phone along to keep myself entertained. As expected, I felt tired and needed something to keep me awake. These late-night jobs are the best because they don't feel like babysitting at all. However, the hardest part was staying awake until 11 p.m. I struggled to keep my eyes open as I watched videos on my phone, but the blue light only made me more drowsy. I eventually put my phone down and walked to the kitchen to grab some water. After standing by the table for a while and taking sips of water, hoping to wake myself up, I heard a voice. One of the boys upstairs was calling for me. I walked up the stairs quickly and found the older boy sitting up in bed, looking scared. He told me he heard someone walking outside his room. I assured him that everything was okay and no one else was there. I tucked him back into bed and checked on the other boy, who was still fast asleep. After making sure both rooms were empty, I went back downstairs, thinking it was just a nightmare. Feeling more alert after drinking water, I sat on the couch. However, I heard slow and careful footsteps in the upstairs hallway. I panicked, but I knew I had to keep the boys safe. I ran upstairs, but found no one in the hallway. When I checked on the boys, they were both sound asleep. Doubting my sanity, I checked each room again before returning to the living room. I picked up my phone to distract myself, but suddenly heard sprinting footsteps upstairs. This time, both boys were awake and terrified. I quickly got them out of the house and into my car, locking the doors. I called the police and the boys' parents, who confirmed that the boys also heard running footsteps. When the police arrived, they searched the entire house but found no signs of an intruder. I don't know what or who we heard, but I never went back to babysit again. During my younger years, I frequently took care of my sibling since I was 5 years their senior. When I turned 13 or 14, my parents trusted me enough to look after my brother while they went out. However, they'd never left us unattended for too long, usually just a few hours at a time. One weekend evening, my parents went to a work party and left us with some food in the fridge. They instructed me to keep an eye on my brother and to call them if we needed anything. My understanding of watching over my brother merely meant ensuring that he didn't get into any trouble or wander off. I would put on his favorite show and then proceed to do my own activities in another room. Occasionally, I would hang out with him, but our age difference made it challenging to find common interests. On this particular night, only an hour after my parents had left, the doorbell rang. Knowing it wasn't my parents, I went to the front door where I saw a man peering through the small side window of our porch. When he saw me, he gestured and pointed to the door, as if he wanted me to open it. Our house had 2 front doors, a primary wooden one with a metal gate-like door in front that we always kept locked. I cautiously opened the main door, but kept the gate doors closed. Not knowing what to expect, I waited for the stranger to speak first. "Hi, buddy. Are your parents home?" he asked. "Yes, no, not right now," I replied, assuming he was a salesman. "Oh, thank you," he said and walked away. I shut the door and went back to my room, forgetting about the encounter. After making some food for my brother, I turned on a show for him and returned to my room to play on my console. Suddenly, I heard the front door open. Confused and frightened, I rushed to investigate, but before I could reach the door, I heard the metal gate unlock and saw the same man step inside our house. Stunned, I froze and stared blankly at him as he greeted me again. He then knelt down and whispered something to my brother. When he tried to pick my brother up, I quickly pulled him away. The man backed off, assuring us that he just wanted to show us something outside. But his friendly smile seemed creepy and insincere. I backed up, holding my brother close, and pleaded with the man to leave. I even threatened to call the police. The man's demeanor changed instantly as soon as I mentioned the police. He became angry and frustrated. The man took a step closer to my brother and I panicked, screaming at the top of my lungs for help. Startled, the man quickly backed away and rushed out the front door, driving away in his truck. I immediately called my parents, and they contacted the police. As we waited for the authorities to arrive, I scolded my brother for letting the man in. He was crying and explained that the man had wanted to give him something. Though I knew my brother was too young to fully understand the situation, my emotions got the best of me and I continued to yell at him. When the police arrived, followed by my parents, they also scolded me for not watching over my brother. The man had been captured on the neighbor's doorbell camera leaving our house and driving away, but the footage was too dark to identify him. We were all certain, however, that he had been watching us for some time, waiting for the perfect opportunity to kidnap us. Despite how close he had come, we were relieved that he had never tried anything else after that day. At the age of 16, I faced a dilemma in deciding which job to pursue. I was not keen on the conventional fast food or retail jobs, but with limited options, I struggled to find a suitable part-time job. While I had only babysat for family friends, my mother encouraged me to consider offering my services to other families. Following her advice, I applied to a local babysitting agency, which facilitated job placements for sitters and connected them with parents in need. After a successful interview, I was approved to begin working for the agency, which was a significant help as I lacked a personal network to find clients. During my 2 months with the agency, the primary downside was that I rarely babysat for the same family twice. However, a single dad who cared for his daughter, Alyssa, booked me for a second appointment. I remembered him as a quiet person who did not talk much. He had scheduled me to babysit from 6 to 10 p.m., but before he left, he gave me specific and unusual instructions. He told me to leave a few minutes before 10 p.m., and he would return precisely at that time. Although I agreed to his request, I found it odd and couldn't comprehend why he was so strict about it. During my time babysitting Alyssa, we engaged in typical activities such as playing games, watching her favorite shows, and having a small dinner. At one point, Alyssa took a nap on the couch, and I decided to walk around the house to ensure everything was normal. I did not want to appear creepy, but the dad's behavior made me feel uneasy. Seeing that everything was in order put my mind at ease. However, I became increasingly uncomfortable with the dad's request that I leave a few minutes before 10 p.m., which made me feel uneasy. As a result, I decided to wait for him to return, rather than leaving before his arrival. I took Alyssa upstairs and got her ready for bed a few minutes before 10 p.m. I then waited on the couch downstairs, keeping track of the time on my phone. I anticipated that the dad would question why I was still present when he arrived, but I was confident he would understand if I explained my concerns. However, as the minutes passed, he did not show up. This was peculiar, considering he had been so specific about his return time and had even requested that I leave before he arrived. Initially, I felt relieved that I had stayed, as leaving Alyssa alone for more than a few minutes would not have been safe. However, as time passed, and the dad had still not returned, I became increasingly concerned. After attempting to call him, He answered the phone and asked me to leave, which only added to my apprehension. I decided to call the police as I felt uncomfortable and feared for Alyssa's safety. During the 10 minutes I waited for the police, I had no contact with the dad. However, as soon as they arrived, he pulled into the driveway. I explained what had happened, but the dad denied ever telling me to leave before he got home, or that he was waiting for me to leave. He claimed to be running late and had only told me he would be home in a few minutes during our phone call. The police looked around, but they found no evidence of any wrongdoing. Despite my concerns, they told me they could not charge him unless there was a connection to something else. It breaks my heart to think that Alyssa is still alone with her dad, who is likely up to something. I cannot understand why he would lie and try so hard to hide something. It is unsettling to think about, and I worry about Alyssa's safety. Thank you for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and sharing it to support me. The best is yet to come.